Hi, today I'm going to show you this arcade I built hidden inside a barrel that looks like an ordinary table. But when you press a button, the monitor and controls pop out, the table lifts up, and you can start playing right away. Also, we're going to talk about the engineering behind it and how each part of this machine works. If you watched my earlier video on making a homemade retro console, you probably noticed I enjoy this kind of thing. And when I thought about making that console, at the same time, I thought about making a big arcade to play on. Like I used to do, like when I was a kid, going to those game arcades and playing with the arcade machines. You likely know I'm remodeling my house for my uploaded videos. That's why. I knew I didn't want to have a regular bulky arcade machine in the living room, since I thought it would look out of place because it wouldn't match the room at all. Plus, I thought it was pretty ugly. The solution was to create an arcade that didn't appear to be one. That's when I thought of making a hidden arcade. I saw some people made one in a barrel, and honestly, I thought that was a good idea. But I didn't like having the controls on the outside, and I also didn't like the monitor being flat on the top, because it seemed very uncomfortable to me. To play, you would have to keep your neck bent down all the time. So I started thinking, how could I get rid of those weak points? The first thing I did was buy a barrel. I thought it was one of those things that were really expensive, but in the end I got a French oak or American oak barrel. Honestly, I'm not sure which it is, but for just $25 and in perfect condition, only dirty. I wanted it to be pretty complete, so I thought about putting the arcade on the top and using the bottom part for something else. I started by laying it down and marking what would be the door of the barrel. I did that right at the beginning, since I needed a way to get inside and be able to work comfortably. And also, because this would be the future door that would give access to whatever I do inside. I used a jigsaw and grinder to cut the metal parts. Although before cutting it, I screwed the metal strips to the wood so that when I cut it, it wouldn't lose its structure. Now the hard part began. How would I do it? So that it's comfortable to play, but also so I can hide the controls and the monitor? I considered several options. First, I thought about putting the monitor straight with a hinge that would let it tilt. But since obviously the barrel would be a table, it couldn't be used while someone is playing. Then the best option came to me, by far. I bought 2 coffee table hinges. What these hinges do is give the table more height, while also bringing it closer to you. And as you can see, it has a pretty interesting movement. First it lifts up and then it goes back. It occurred to me that if I placed the monitor lying down and attached it from the top corners to one end of each hinge, when the hinge lifts, the monitor would rise from the top side, and as it moves back, it would be at such an angle that it would not only be very comfortable to view, but also create space at the front to place some controls. And on top of that, the glass that serves as the table would always remain completely flat, so we wouldn't even have to remove anything from the table to turn on the arcade. So that's how I started doing it. First I modified something, the hinges, since I wasn't going to use them completely, and then I screwed them onto the top part of the barrel. I took apart the monitor, which is one of 4 I repaired from a batch of broken monitors I bought. And the video's on my channel in case you want to go check it out. I removed the screen and printed 2 pieces that would go in the corners, which I glued and screwed in so they wouldn't come off. And they hold a small 8mm bronze bushing. Through that bushing passes a rod that goes from one hinge to the other. And they're what allow the monitor to rotate as it rises. Once I saw that the system worked, the hard part came, figuring out how I was going to motorize it. Basically, this isn't easy. You have to figure out a movement that first pushes up and then back. At first, I thought about putting a servo on the side of the hinge arm, but the huge leverage would be a problem. And then this idea came to me. Let's look at the barrel from the side and imagine a threaded rod going through the middle of the barrel with a motor anchored at the bottom. On that same rod, there's a nut that's attached to the 8mm rod that holds the monitor. And let's pay close attention to the movement it makes. When the motor turns, the nut will rise along the same thread, pushing the rod and in turn pushing the monitor. As you can see, the rod starts its movement completely straight. And since it has two pivots, as it goes up, the hinge moves backward and the rod changes its angle. Along with the angle of attack, the higher it goes, the force that was initially applied in a parallel way starts to become vertical as its angle changes. But saying it is easier than doing it. The central rod I used had to be good and precise, so it's an 8mm ACME rod with a 2mm pitch like those used in 3D printers. At the top end, I held it using a stop with a bearing, and at the bottom end, a metal arm with a bronze bushing. The motor I used is from an old drill which I used in a previous video to motorize a skateboard. What I did was take it apart and keep only the motor and the planetary reduction gearbox, which gives it more torque. And I attached it to the bottom end of the rod. The rod that pushes upward is the same 8mm rod I used in the monitor. It's held with a bronze bushing and a printed part, and it's also secured with an 8mm ACME nut, also with another printed part. Now came problem number 2. I couldn't put the controls where I wanted because when the system closed, the monitor would simply hit them. So I said, what if when the monitor is closed, the controls are retracted inward and simply rise up? That way, everything would fit. So I cut the part where the controls would go. I used a jigsaw, and before that, I made sure the controls would fit. For that, I downloaded this template, which I'll leave in the description, and I stuck it onto the barrel. Once it was stuck on, I simply followed the guide to make the holes. For the buttons and joysticks, I'll leave these buttons and joysticks in the description in case you want to buy them. They all connect to an included board and then via USB, just like a standard shifter. After cutting everything, I placed each button in its spot on the wood and did the same with the 2 joysticks. And when I had the whole panel assembled, I had to make the system that would raise and lower them. Honestly, I solved it really easily. I bought 2 telescopic slides, the same ones used as guides for drawers, and I screwed them in perpendicularly at each end. Now, what I simply did was screw them onto the barrel, and that's it. I already had my controls, which were able to go up and down, and in a very smooth way. Once more, I had to consider how to motorize this. The truth is that at first I thought about using another different motor to motorize the control system separately. Honestly, it didn't seem efficient to me, since I had a strong motor that could lift the entire monitor system and glass, and it still had enough power left to lift the controls as well. So I said, why not just make an arm directly on the original threaded rod, and have that arm, when it goes up, be the one that lifts the controls at the same time? That way, everything would be included in one mechanism. As you can see, it's the same motor, the only motor that's responsible for lifting both the monitor and the controls, all at the same time and in a synchronized way. On the back side of the monitor, I attached the power supply and the controller board, which fit just perfectly. For the audio, I bought 2 speakers that used to be from a limousine, so the quality is very good, and they were really cheap, just $10. They're connected to an amplifier, and I placed them right in the center of the arcade. As you can see, the hinges always stay flat and the monitor never goes above the hinge horizon line. This is designed so that I can put a glass on top that acts as a table. I used a round glass, 65 centimeters in diameter and 8mm thick. I set it in the center over the hinges and marked where to drill. It is a little scary to make a hole in the glass, but it is possible. The best drill bits for this are diamond hole saw bits, but I couldn't find them, so I decided to try these, which are arrow-shaped and also diamond-tipped. Luckily, they worked well. The way to use them is to put some water where the hole will go and start drilling slowly. I just made a hole big enough for the screw I was going to use to fit through. And this is when, basically, the disaster happened. I made the hole perfectly without any problem, and then I put in the screw with the cover. But at that moment, I tightened it too much and the glass broke in half. And this is because under the glass, between the glass and the hinge, there goes a silicone washer, which I didn't put in. Or you don't have to put it in, but don't tighten it too much or what happened to me will happen to you. So that's it. I have to buy another piece of glass and replace it. I put a plastic weather strip on the upper edge of the barrel so that when you rest your wrists, it's not uncomfortable. And the barrel will later be varnished and painted so it looks perfect. We already had everything practically working. We just need to synchronize and automate everything. The best option for that is an Arduino. By using some sensors, I can get a signal when the monitor is at its peak, maximum and minimum, as well as the controls, and use that signal to automatically turn the motors on and off. I also used a Raspberry Pi 3 to bring the arcade itself to life and install all the emulators for the games I wanted. And that's how it turned out, almost finished. As you can see, the arcade goes up and down perfectly without any problems. Though not the smoothest movement, it performs every function perfectly and is fully playable without needing to lower your head or do anything awkward. I also have an excellent idea for the bottom part, which includes everything from a wine cellar to a custom-made refrigerator. But both the automation system and the refrigerator I'll leave for the next video. So, if you're interested in seeing how the project continues, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video so I know you're interested. The more support this video gets, the sooner I'll edit and upload the other parts. If you've read this far, consider joining my Patreon. With a monthly contribution, you can watch videos early, access exclusive content, and help decide on channel matters. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram too, where I post daily updates, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.